We haven't allowed Naig to talk yet today. He had some things. He's the Secretary of Agriculture, and he's got things to do. But we were really happy that he was able to come here later in the session and talk about what's going on with the Department of Agriculture, and give us a good cheerleader talk, Mike.
Thanks, Ray. You know, Ray, I got to admit that this year has been a little bit like, I'll get invited to speak, and it'll be the secretary is going to update us on the weather and the markets and the renewable fuel standard. And pretty soon, we're all wanting to, let me get this, walk out into oncoming traffic. So anyway, I'm glad that you introduced me as giving a pep talk here. Well, it is good to be here. I apologize that I couldn't be with you for more of the day. We had a great day on the road. Started this morning early in Iowa City with the Iowa Organic Conference, 19th year of that, and then made our way down to Burlington to visit an ADM river terminal, and then back here to catch you all. So happy to do that. And I want to thank Ray for the invitation and for your leadership. Fred, thank you. Been a couple years, but good to see you. Welcome to Iowa. Ernie, Dean Robeson, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. I'm excited to have gotten to know the Dean well, and he's doing a fantastic job at Iowa State, and we're so thankful that they are engaged on such important issues. It's been a challenging year, obviously. Crop progress report just out, 86% harvested on corn. So we still have a ways to go here, even as folks are trying to race to get done before weather and maybe even before the Thanksgiving turkey hits the table. So we know it's been a year that we'd like to put in the rearview mirror. Actually, I was reminded here recently that actually October of 2018 was when this all started with the wet weather, and continues to be a challenging year. Really, I'll keep my comments pretty brief today. I wanted to acknowledge the fact that I appreciate that you're all here. The fact that we even need to get comfortable with getting our heads around some pretty important topics, and even how to talk about it in the agriculture community. You go a little deeper, and I think about the reality on farms across the state is that we need to figure out better ways and how to be resilient in the face of changing weather, and also to address that piece about sustainability, producing more, using less. And of course, the panel talked a lot about this, but the drivers around that, right? The economic drivers, potentially, we don't know what those are yet. But I'm excited about what that can mean. I'm especially excited about the nexus between nutrient reduction and what we're trying to do with Iowa's nutrient reduction strategy and our efforts there with nitrogen and phosphorus and carbon. And what is the linkage across those issues? And again, how do we pay for the adoption of practices at scale across the state? I do want to mention, by the way, what a great panel, including my friend Bill Kauser. I don't compliment him in public very often. No, Bill's a good friend, but Dave and Brian and Bill, all great example of let me show you, open their doors, and that's not always easy. Now, I've heard this described here recently. I was at a cover crop field day, and there was a gentleman who was talking about some of the things they'd tried and failed at, and they tried this, and they amended, and they tried this, and that didn't work. And so I got up afterwards and I said, "Thank you for sharing your mistakes." And he said, "Oh, I've never made a mistake. There's just a heck of a lot of things I don't do anymore." And I thought, there, I liked that definition of that. And try and do something. And I think that's a great lesson that you heard these folks talking about. Is we're going to try. We're going to make some changes, and I appreciate that. I also want to recognize Dr. Justin Glisson. Justin, would you wave in the back there? State climatologist, doing a fantastic job for us. There's a nasty rumor going around that I have fired him 20 or 25 times this year. Okay, well, it's kind of true. I have. I say Justin lives or dies by his next 10-day forecast in my office, but we appreciate his, he's doing a fantastic job for us. Justin, thanks for being here. And if you want to know the weather forecast for next week, just hit Justin on your way out. We've got a tremendous amount of data about Iowa weather. Of course, over the last 30 years, our data shows annual average temperatures increasing. about a third of a degree per decade. Annual rainfall, annual seasonal precipitation totals are increasing. We're seeing heavier rainfalls across the state of Iowa. Average final frost date is occurring 2 weeks earlier in the spring and 2 weeks later in the fall. So we've extended a growing season by several weeks. Warmer temperatures are causing more rain events in the spring and the fall. Of course, this makes it challenging for farmers to get started and for finishing harvest. And yet, we're making inroads in terms of sustainability. So you've probably all talked about it. And again, this is the bad part about coming in at the end of the day and not having sat here is I can't, I don't know exactly what you all said. I assume you've talked about some of these things, but the EPA says agriculture, including livestock production, accounts for 9% of total greenhouse gas emissions. I see Kent is here with CAST, and had a great CAST Communicator Award winner, the greenhouse gas guru. Man, I have been following him on Twitter, and I love the information that he shares, and is a good example of how CAST recognizes truly great folks who are communicating about some pretty difficult, complex issues in ways that folks can get their heads around. I would highly encourage you to follow. So 9% of total greenhouse gas emissions in the United States, and yet we've increased production, and that level has essentially stayed the same. Fossil fuels are the largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions. We cannot compare cows to cars. And so, again, back to those realities, right? We want to deal with the resiliency that is needed in terms of our farms and our farmers and the job that they do. We need to address that sustainability piece by producing more using less. And the other factor of sustainability, by the way, is income sustainability, right? To be able to be on farm and be able to do the things that we want to do is an important piece of that. I just like to remind folks that everywhere you look, agriculture is contributing solutions to this conversation. Corn and soybeans producing biofuels, wind energy, conservation practices of conserving natural resources. Iowa's a leader in ethanol with over 4 billion gallons of ethanol, with 350 million gallons of biodiesel every year, 2.3 megawatts of wind power per million people. No-till farming increased 18%. The use of cover crops has increased 256% since 2012. That's according to USDA census. We've built 90 wetlands, nitrate-reducing wetlands. We've got 30 more that'll be built. 6 more through an EPA grant. This is when you work together with EPA to get things done. I've said it many times, of course, if we're going to remain the productive state that we have been throughout history, it will only be because we take seriously the responsibility to protect the natural resources that have allowed us to do it, but also to adopt innovation, responsible use of technology as well. So, again, thanks for being a part of the conversation. We don't have all the answers. I certainly don't. We certainly don't at the department, and we are interested in partnerships and ideas and ways that we can link soil health, soil conservation, water quality with this conversation around climate as well. So our door's open. I would love to visit with you, with folks who have ideas about how to move us in the right direction. So thanks again, Ray. Thanks for all of you being here and for the opportunity to make a few comments. Thanks again.